let us bring in our two low-key but distinguished guests, Democratic policy analyst and radio host Mark Levine. Look at him, he's already warming up. And Betsy McCaughey, Hudson Institute health policy expert and former lieutenant governor of New York. First of all, Mark Levine, I know this just thrills you. What are your 10 or 12 red state Democrats going to do in the Senate after the House Republicans repeal this? They're going to have to go on record to the most unpopular piece of legislation in this election and maybe in all of American history, Mark.
No, Larry, it won't come to a vote in the Senate. Harry, we won't bring it to a vote. So this is all pure political theater. It will come to a vote in the House, and House Democrats will vote. I'm sure they will not vote to take 40 million Americans and deny them any kind of health coverage. I think that once they, it's like, you know, when the Republicans tried to stop Social Security, they tried to stop Medicare, and this is pure political theater.
Pure political theater, Betsy McCaughey. I don't know about that. What's your take?
Not at all. This election was largely a referendum on Obamacare, and most voters chose the candidate who had pledged to repeal. Now this newly elected House is going to keep its pledge to the American people. The first act of this new House is going to be to read that sacred document, the U.S. Constitution, and their second act must be to repeal this law, which shreds your constitutional rights.
I mean, Mark Levine, just as an aside, look, let's put politics aside for a minute. You've got Democratic Party governors out there that do not want the Medicaid mandate because their states cannot afford it during these very difficult times. Now, are you telling me that this is just going to go away, or you want to face up to the fact that the public is in full revolt and it may be a bipartisan revolt?
No, it's not possible. First of all, as we recall, the Congressional Budget Office says this saves money. If you repeal health care reform, you add to the budget deficit.
That is a shell game.
Well, that's what the Congressional Budget Office says. It's nonpartisan. Republicans cite it all the time. But more than that, you've got to remember that with health care, what you have is a policy that allows 40 million Americans who didn't have health coverage to have health coverage. I know President Obama is pro-business. He doesn't want employers to make the tough decisions. Do I fire an employee with a pre-existing health condition because now he can't afford health care? Really, it has no chance of repeal, but the Republicans can play all the theater they like.
Let's set the record straight on this. First of all, the biggest mandate of this new Congress is to cut spending, and this is a $1 trillion health law. The fact is, deficit reduction is simply a shell game. It means raising your taxes to increase new spending. This law increases taxes by over $500 billion in just the first decade to help pay for this new law. Secondly, there are ways to help the uninsured have coverage without destroying jobs in the United States and without taking away your freedom.
You know, Mark, I want to just go to this taking away your freedom point that Betsy just raised. As of the first day of the new year, 2011, certain provisions of Obamacare go into place that would strictly limit health savings accounts and would also strictly limit Medicare Advantage, the private choice program. Now, that is on top of all the other anger. Those things are going to annoy probably 20-some-odd million Americans who know all about this, Mark. So once again, I ask you, might this story turn out differently, even in political terms, than you think?
You know, it's interesting. Republicans love government subsidies for health care when they put them in. They hate government subsidies health care when the Democrats put them in. We all know the difference. Democratic plans are for people who need health care, people with pre-existing conditions, children, and so forth. Republican plans are for people who don't need health care, people who are so healthy that they don't want to buy insurance or anything like that, like those that use health savings accounts.
This is not just about health care. This is about liberty.
It saves money.
If government can force you to buy health insurance, government can force you to buy just about anything or do just about anything. And essentially, this is about protecting the individual's freedom against an all-powerful government.
Well, what happens,
It's interesting. I'm just going to say, with Medicare, government, of course, forces Americans to buy Medicare, and yet 94% of people on Medicare like Medicare. So I know they're forced to buy it, but old people like it.
No, that's not true. They're not forced to buy it.
Sure they are. You're taxed.
You can opt out of Medicare and Social Security. You do not have to participate.
Let me ask this question, Betsy McCaughey. Does this bill control health care costs? in some sense, it's going to really boil down to this part of the debate.
Absolutely
Is it true
not.
cost
In fact,
control?
the administration's own projections show two very important things. Only 3% more people will have private insurance in 2014 under this law than without it. The vast majority of people who gain coverage will be enrolled in Medicaid. And secondly, every single year, according to the administration's projections, all the way to 2018 and beyond, your health plan will cost more under this law than if the law had not passed.
Mark?
Those are the administration's own projections.
Mark, what do you make of that?
Here's how we know that it saves money. Basically, the plan that was passed by Congress largely mirrors the plan that was passed by Governor Mitt Romney in Massachusetts. There is a health care mandate, and in Massachusetts, premiums have gone down 30 to 40% while they've reached 98% coverage. All
check
that
the
President
facts.
Obama
Massachusetts
did
has
was
the
take the
highest
Republican
premiums in the
plan
United
and
States.
installed it, and we know that it worked in Massachusetts. It will work nationwide.
Did it work in
Massachusetts has the highest insurance premiums in the United States, higher even than my state's, New York's.
All right, we're going to let it go
Their premiums
for
have
now.
gone down, though, since this bill's come passed.
We're going to leave it here tonight, but I got to tell you, you're going to get a preliminary vote on Friday, and you're going to get a final vote in the House next Wednesday. Lord help the opponents of this overturn if the courts weigh in some more, because the judicial momentum seems to be working against it. But Mark Levine, Betsy McCaughey, we will have you back to continue the great Obamacare debate after the Tea Party election. Now